Hi everyone, I'm here today with Lisa Stead. Lisa is the COO of Trafalgar Education. Let me get that right.
I am indeed, yes.
Hi Lisa, thanks for your time
You
this
are
morning.
so welcome. Really pleased to be here. Excited to discover what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I know it's unplanned,
I love it.
but it's going to involve franchising. So
That's
that's
my one of my favorite subjects.
so so just to start off with. Can you tell me what you do now? Like, what's your involvement in franchising now with what businesses, what companies, and your main roles and responsibilities?
Yeah, of course. So Trafalgar Education is part of a wider group called Trafalgar Entertainment. They do all things to do with, as it says, entertainment. They have theatres, they sell tickets, they produce shows, but they also want to make performing arts as accessible as possible to all demographics in all locations. And for them, that made sense for them to then acquire Stagecoach Performing Arts, which was a franchise already. They acquired that from another company called Encore. And then subsequently, after a few years, they bought another franchise called Drama Kids. So we have the two franchise brands that are very complementary to each other. We actually have Stagecoach franchisees who also own Drama Kids franchises. We don't have any the other way around yet, but I'm working on it. And they're really complementary to each other. But yeah, it's all about helping those guys with their franchises. And they're largely very different sizes. So we've got around 40 for Drama Kids, and we have around 350 globally for Stagecoach.
Yeah, I was going to say Stagecoach is a name that I think a lot of people will know and
It is, yeah.
and appreciate, probably because there's one near or close to them, so they understand that. So tell me a bit about the two, those two franchise brands, and how they're complementary. Is Drama Kids almost like a feeder to Stagecoach? Does it work that way around, or is it or
Some people do think of it like that, and it can be. So I think Drama Kids used to be called the Helen O'Grady Drama Academy.
Okay, that
It
yeah,
has
yeah,
over 100,000 students worldwide. And in the UK, we've got around 6 to 7,000 students.
okay.
So it's much bigger globally than it is in the UK. So our real focus at the moment is that UK growth, and working with our franchisees to develop the new brand, which was launched in June 2023. So really, we're a baby brand on the back of a 45-year-old brand. But it's very new and fresh, and it's been quite an exciting journey the last 18 months because it's almost been like running an entrepreneurial startup with the new brand and getting it out there and getting the awareness of the new brand. But they are an hour class, curriculum led. So there's a really strict curriculum and format for that hour class. And it is highly focused on using drama as a tool to help children communicate and interact with the outside world in a more positive, more more positive way, really, sort of more enthusiastic, more confident way. We look at life skills, but we use the drama to help with the life skills. So we use play, we use fun, using drama to get those things like debate and interview techniques and just having a conversation where they can have eye contact with another human being, which we know that some of our kids really do struggle with these days, especially those children who were sort of born in around that sort of COVID time when everyone was sort of isolated. So it's a really, really good way of getting some of those children out who maybe do have some SEND challenges and do find it more difficult. But we use drama to do that. Whereas I think with Stagecoach, it is more about training your child in how to be a better dancer, singer, actor. Now, we also have those great life skills that it does give you as a byproduct of the confidence, and creative courage for life is our tagline on Stagecoach, which is really important. So it is primarily about creative courage for life, but we do know that the children in Stagecoach do tend to go because they have a specific interest in, I want to be a dancer, I want to be an actor, I want to be a singer. Some parents go to give them confidence and build that for them as well, which is great. It's got the double pronged. But for Drama Kids, we use drama as a way to access those things, whereas in Stagecoach, we really do focus on the three disciplines. And it's not as curriculum focused. So it allows the teachers to be more creative and more fluid with what they deliver. We have a framework with Stagecoach. We have a curriculum for Drama Kids. Drama Kids is only an hour. It's a lower price point. So we're making sure that we're as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, no matter maybe how much money they've got in the bank or when they've got availability. Because Stagecoach is 3 hours for our main classes, and Drama Kids is only an hour. So sometimes you haven't got 3 hours on a Saturday morning. You maybe have an hour on a Monday. And the other great thing about Drama Kids is they have an in-schools program. So we can actually go to a school that perhaps can't afford a drama teacher full time, but they can afford an hour or two a week from a consultant coming in and delivering a curriculum and a drama program that fits in with the national curriculum.
Okay, well, no, that makes total sense how they complementary.
Yeah.
Drama Kids, what ages are you talking at Drama Kids level? From what to what?
So we have our main program is from 4 to 18, the same as it is for Stagecoach. We do have a minis program on both sides that looks at 2 to 4 year olds, but we're in redevelopment for those. So they have been programs that we've used in the past. And then we're looking at rejuvenating both those programs. So we will be starting much younger.
Right. And Stagecoach is that kind of the triple threat.
It is the triple threat,
isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Singing, dancing, acting, and some kids can do all three brilliantly, and others will focus on one or two.
And yeah, sometimes you do get children who start with Stagecoach and they go, do you know, I really love the drama, but I'm not so keen on the singing. And actually that means we can say, well, actually, we've got this product over here that might be perfect. Or we have children who go to Drama Kids who go, Drama Kids is great and I love it and it's great fun, but I want more than that. So they'll go to Stagecoach as well. And we have students who go to both, which is really lovely.
Perfect. Okay, so that's great, and that helps everyone understand about the brands, the franchise brands you're involved in. I want to go back now, Lisa, to I just want to understand your kind of journey, and how that journey, I guess, we all leave school and then we all get our first job, and then we do this and we do that, and we may go through higher education or whatever that is. But at what point in all of that did you first come across franchising the way you know franchising to be today? Because you might have had a McDonald's and thought
that was definitely my knowledge of franchising until I hit sort of late 20s probably. So I came out of university with a degree in musical theatre.
Right.
Not wonderfully applicable to getting what my parents would call a real job. So I started my own company. So at 21, I started a theatre company teaching kids to sing, dance and act. I did 3 hours. I basically stole the Stagecoach model without realizing I'd stolen the Stagecoach model. But now looking at it, I was like, I did exactly that. It just made sense to me. And I got to about 26, 27, and my accountant said, you are working yourself to the bone. You're doing all the work yourself. You've got general managers all over the place. Essentially what you're doing is you're providing the curriculum, you're providing the training. Why not make them business owners in their areas? And then you're going to have a lot less work to do. And so I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. But even then I didn't call that franchising. Although when I look back and looked at what I was doing, I was franchising my own business. I did that for about 4 years, and then decided that I'd kind of fallen into it rather than chosen to do it. I was living in South Wales. That's not where any of my friends or family lived. I was there for 10 years. It was amazing. But I was ready to move on and do something different and have a different challenge. So I sold the business and I moved back down south, which is where I was from, down to Bournemouth. And I decided I was going to take 6 months and work in a job that I made as much money as I possibly could in 6 months with the skill set that I had available. And then I was going to go traveling. In that 6 months, I met a guy called Steve Bolton, who ran a franchise called Platinum Property Partners in Bournemouth. And he said, I really think your skill set would be really useful. We just need someone to tie us over for like the next 6 to 8 months. And 8 years later, I was their MD, having gone through an MBA. They definitely saw something in me that perhaps I didn't see, because at that time I was like, oh, well, I'm just a dance and drama teacher, really. And actually what I hadn't understood is that I was an entrepreneur and that I could run my own businesses and that I'd run multiple franchise sites. And I worked with those guys. I think we started off with 35 franchises when I started. By the time I left, we'd hit 240 franchises. It was the most amazing journey of understanding what franchising really was. I got involved with the British Franchise Association, did their qualified franchise professional training courses, and just really absorbed myself in the industry. And so, yeah, my early 30s is when I really understood what franchising was and what it could do to transform your business if you're a franchisor and your life if you're a franchisee.
Brilliant. And with I know PPP really well. What were your roles? And I know they changed. You were there a while.
Yes.
Did you get involved in any of the recruitment of franchisees, any of the onboarding, or any of the management or the support of those franchisees? What were you doing in
Yeah,
that
so I
time?
started out as operations manager, which I
Okay,
think was a bit of a catch-all term for whatever job was not being currently done,
right.
Lisa's going to do it. And I was that type of person as well as that. If I saw a need somewhere, I was like, I'll give that a go.
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
research, I can Google, I can go to the library, I can speak to experts, I can totally make this work. Which made me, I would say, a jack of all trades. I got involved in as many departments as I could to really understand the whole process. And one of the unique things that I think that Platinum did really early days was to understand that, yeah, your marketing team bring in your leads and then they hand them over to the recruitment team, and then the recruitment team hand them over to the operational team who deliver the support and the service. But actually there needs to be a blend between each of those departments. And what we did was we brought people from the operational management team into the recruitment process, so they were part of the interview because they were the people that they were going to have a relationship with. We didn't want the recruitment team to just chuck a new lead and go, here you go, here's a franchisee, and I'm off, and goes and finds another one. And there
yeah,
was very much this overlap, which I think I've tried to bring into every franchise that I've worked with since, because I think that's really beneficial, that the operational team and the team who are going to support those franchisees are really included in that recruitment process. So that's one of my sort of key top tips for a franchisor, I guess. But that's something that we involved ourselves in. And towards the end, when I moved into the managing director role, I was involved in making those decisions and helping the recruitment team and having final sign off on, yes, that person is someone we want to have within our franchise network. So I got involved in every element. So there was times when I went out and I was helping people on the ground. I'd go out and do mentoring. I'd help people find houses. I'd sit with them and go through their cash flows and profit and loss forecasts and things like that. And then I would sit in the office and look at processes and how we save head office money so that we've got more money to support and help our franchisees. So a real spread of information and technical competencies that were kind of thrown my way that gave me a really good overview on franchising, I think.
yeah. No, it sounds very similar to me as well. I mean, my whole background is actually in the franchise recruitment process of
Mm.
franchising, but along the way, I've got involved with supporting franchise networks and the development and changing the models and looking at the franchise fees and all of those kinds of structures. So yeah, it does gives you a brilliant overview. So which really helps. So
Yeah, and McDonald's do that, don't they? They say they're we're looking at biggest franchisor that I can think of off the top of my head. Their MD comes in, he has to scrub the floors and he has to fry fries and he has to flip burgers. Why wouldn't we do that as a franchisor for all my team
yeah.
will move around and do a hot seat couple of days with each department to understand how that really works.
Absolutely, and I think you made a really key point there, and I'm big on recruitment of franchisees in the right way, in an ethical, a sustainable way, because if you don't if you don't set out in that way, then you end up kind of being matched. You get the wrong people, and when you get the wrong people, through no one's fault really, it's just a bad process maybe.
Yeah.
It's not much fun for anyone involved. Support franchise or franchisee actually when you're in that position. So yeah, I'm a massive advocate for saying to franchisors, look, whatever your recruitment process is, whether you're outsourcing elements of it, if you're doing it in-house, it doesn't really matter, but make sure you involve your support team, your operational team at a marketing level, at a sales level, at a the business development, BDM kind of level, and so on, mentoring. Get them meeting that potential franchisee and maybe presenting how they support the existing franchisees. I think there's nothing more powerful in that, and I think what it also does is it makes a potential franchisee realize that there's real normal human beings who are nice behind the
Yeah.
support that they're going to
And
get.
actually, sometimes you do find that it's just a personality clash, and you
Oh
don't want to
yeah,
sign up as a prospective franchisee coming in. You're about to make a minimum of a 5-year commitment. It's a
yeah,
big deal. You're putting all your eggs in one basket type thing, and you're going full in. You want to know that the people you're working with, that you actually like them, or at least get on, and you
yeah,
can respect them, and you can respect where they come from, and understand how they're going to be able to support you going through. Because actually, if that's right, not right, it's going to be a really uncomfortable relationship. You could still make your business a success. You absolutely can. But it's going to be an uncomfortable ride. And sometimes running your own business is blinking hard, whether you do it as a franchise or not. You want to be able to have somebody that's on your side and that you feel's got your back, and that you feel that you can have a bit of a rant or a moan to, but also someone that you can celebrate your successes with.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. So Lisa, that was Platinum Property Partners,
Yeah.
and then from there, what happened next? So how, I want to see
There
how.
I decided, yeah, there I decided that, again, it was one of those things that I'd gone for 6 to 8 months. I wasn't necessarily planning to be there for a very long time. I loved the time that I had there, and I'm really glad I made those decisions. And yeah, the guys I worked with, Steve Hogan and Steve Bolton, were just phenomenal mentors, and people that you could really look up to and learn from, in very different ways. And sort of coming towards the end of my time, it just felt that it was right to move on and do something different. Um, and I wanted to set up my own consultancy business. Um, and I don't think I'd quite realized as an individual how much I get my energy from working with teams of people. So when I was working on my own, and whereas when I ran my own business with a theatre company, I was surrounded by people all the time. When you do a consultancy business, or certainly the way that I structured my consultancy business, was it was a lot of work on my own, sat in front of my laptop, making the first connections, going out and doing the networking. And I just realized very quickly that perhaps that wasn't the best way to utilize my skills. And I was okay at it, but I wasn't great at it. And it never sort of settled right. And then while I was doing that, I was looking at setting up my own franchise. I've always loved baking. I make cake and cupcakes for people a lot. I still have it a bit of a side hustle. It's a nice way of having a paid hobby. And I decided that at the time, cupcakes were absolutely booming. And we were going to set up, myself and 3 other ladies were going to set up a cupcake business that took baked cupcakes into someone else's home. We would teach them how to ice them. We'd do sort of cheeky cocktail parties for hen dos, or classy ones, depending on what the bride was like. Go into their home, get them all of the stuff that they needed pre-done, and then they would help decorate cupcakes. And then we'd give a bouquet of cupcakes that look like flowers to the bride, and make a real party atmosphere of it. And we were all ready to go. We had 3 people who were going to be the first sort of franchisees, and then 4 with me in January 2020.
Yeah, yeah, we know what
So
happened
yeah,
there.
we know what then happened. So going into people's homes, not really the key thing. And
Yeah,
actually, by that time, I was also working with a company called Shuttercraft, who are also franchise. It
yeah,
really excited me because they looked like they were at that same stage that I first joined Platinum with. So they were around 30 franchisees. And I started working with those guys. An amazing team, really phenomenal. Loved the product, loved the fact that it was still related to sort of home improvement and making houses look absolutely beautiful. So I started working with those guys as their head of franchising and building their franchise team. And that was great. And about 4 years into that, having sidelined my cupcake business because of all sorts of reasons that are obvious, and it's still there, bubbling away, maybe one day.
yeah.
But at about 4 years in, this job came up with Trafalgar Education, and I had a phone call, and I'd had an offhand comment with someone a very long time ago that said, do you know what, my dream job, so if this job ever came available, give me a call. And suddenly this call came through that says it marries up, my musical theatre, my love of theatre, my love of running theatre classes and working with children, and my love of franchising and helping people realize ambitions that perhaps they didn't even know they had. And I think that's probably, I was reading that the book about what is your why, and there's some really great things in there. There's some things I don't necessarily subscribe to, but I suddenly realized that the thing that I really love doing, and when I'm really in my happy place, is when I'm helping somebody achieve something that they didn't know that they could do at the beginning. So whether that's children in dance and drama and singing classes and just exploding and finding this confidence, or whether it's adults starting up a business that they didn't even know that they could do. And so, yeah, it marries the two. And I'm now just totally in my happy place.
Yeah, I know. I was looking on your LinkedIn profile before, as I tend to do before these things, and yeah, I saw some very nice photos of your cupcakes.
Of my cupcakes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And do you know what? In my head, because I don't know, I've been listening about, side hustles, and
Mm,
there's more and more people in the UK who are setting up what are side hustles, basically like hobby businesses, which could become something, might not be, anything, and who knows where they go. And I started thinking. I wonder if anyone's tried to franchise a side hustle and actually promote it as such. Almost
mm.
say, yeah, this is
This
a
is the
part-time
space.
business, but it's here's the model, and it's a franchise, and there's support and everything else, but it doesn't need to be your main thing, and you can do it as well as having a job. And if it grows, it grows, and if it doesn't matter. And maybe we set up a 2-year agreement or a 3-year agreement rather than anything too onerous. And anyway, I just, yeah,
Yeah, no, I love that. I think some of the lifestyle businesses, maybe some of the children's industry businesses, especially, I think
yeah,
maybe are a little bit on that side. I know that Drama Kids, when it very first started as Helena Grady and it first came to the UK, was very much if you're a full-time teacher, but you want a little something extra that's
yeah,
yours and
yeah.
that maybe is planning for a retirement. And so that when you stop work, you might not be doing 5 days a week, but you might be doing 2 or 3 evenings a week, and it'll just
Yeah.
carry you through. And you've got a nice little earner there. But yeah, my side hustle pays, yeah, spending money for holidays.
Exactly that. So that's what I was thinking, right? Because a lot of people, when it comes to franchising, a lot of people are not willing to leave the safety of employment, but
It's scary.
they're not necessarily happy in employment. And then they want to do something themselves. They have some sort of entrepreneurial burning, but it's normally at a reasonably simple level. Like
Yeah.
it is right. I like baking, so I'm gonna make some cakes and sell them locally, and try and build a business around that. And obviously that's kind of what you did,
Yeah.
as part of you. But then to be able to give someone opportunity to not have to think of that all themselves, but actually
Yeah.
find a way where they can pay a much lesser fee, not 20, 30 grand franchise fee, don't need premises as such, can do it in their spare time,
Yeah.
but allow them to build it up, and to a point where they might actually end up quitting their job and saying, you know what, I'm gonna full time in this, because I'm already doing 10, 15 hours a week on top of my 40 hours a week, but I'm enjoying this more and I'm starting to make more money. And if I just gave it more,
And it doesn't feel
so
so much of a risk then, does it? It feels like you've already got something to go to.
totally. And I haven't seen any franchises, as far as I can tell, promoted in that way. Like, start with us as a side hustle if you like, with your job. Obviously, you need to get your employer's permission in some case and all that kind of good stuff. But really, I just it's been kicking around in my head thinking, well,
Yeah.
actually, I think that could work, but anyway, that's a side thing. So okay,
Love that.
so Shuttercraft, um, from there, and then this job came up, and you've been at Trafalgar for how long now?
18, 19 months now. Yeah.
18, 19 months.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are you actually doing? So with Stagecoach and then with Drama Kids, where are you kind of spending your time, like marrying everything together and
So
all, bringing
I
all
mean,
your experience and knowledge and all of
yeah,
that?
the idea is originally we were like, oh, it's going to be 50-50. So I'll spend 50% of my time on Drama Kids, 50%. And what really happens is some months it's 90% on Drama Kids and next to
Yeah.
nothing on Stagecoach. And then it flips itself on its head completely. So I kind of go where I'm needed. But definitely, I mean, Stagecoach is a 35-year-old, really well oiled machine with a lot of franchisees, with a lot of really fixed processes on how things work. So I
Yeah.
think on that side, I'm the person who challenges those sometimes. Says, okay, yeah, that process has been in place for 35 years, but is that still the best way to do this? I've got
Yeah.
a bit of a thing. I love saving money. I mean, I love saving my own money the most, but if I can save other people money, that's good too. So I do sort of tend to go really dig into the numbers and say, okay, where are we spending this? Why are we spending this here? Do you realize that we've accidentally got duplicate systems doing the same thing, and we're paying for both, and we can do some cost savings here. So that was kind of a really nice thing to be able to go in to do. And it's easier when you're outside coming in to see those things and you haven't been part of the 35-year machine. So I think I come in and I sort of maybe challenge some of the way of thinking. One of the really amazing things that we have in Stagecoach is the most fantastic recruitment process, because I mean, this year alone, we've done nearly 30 resales.
Wow.
So about 10% of our network every year, but this year's been quite a really strong year. And we've got franchisees who, are selling off to 30 or 35 years with us. So they're really big things to celebrate, and they're worth a significant amount of money. They're not selling sort of for 10, 15, 20, 30,000 pounds anymore. They're selling for six figures, which is really good. So there's a whole support structure that now has around that. And so we've really been working on that process and helping our franchisees plan for their exit in a really structured way. So that's something new that's come in, sort of started before I came, and then we've really cemented that over the last period of time, and building our recruitment team, because we have still got some greenfields. There aren't many, but we are very keen to get those last few territories over the line so that we've got total sort of, I laugh and joke with the team and say UK domination, but at least got coverage everywhere. So that's one of the things that we've really been working on is how to approach recruitment in a slightly different way, because we can't just go out to an expo and see who comes in, because 90% of the people we talk to, we haven't got that territory. Sorry, we haven't got that territory. Oh, sorry, that one's not available. So we're having to do a very different strategy for recruitment, and then going out and finding somebody who's got £200,000, not £15,000. And that's a very different recruitment journey as well. So we've been really looking at that with Stagecoach over the last 18 months. And then we've just completely changed our support system. So because we've got all these franchisees who have multiple territories now, who are growing their businesses to amazing lengths, we need a different level of business support. And so we've just spent the last 18 months really looking at what that business support needs to be. We've employed a few new people in that area, and we've now called them business consultants. So they're people who go out and consult with our business owners on how they want to grow, what their objectives are, what their long-term plans are for the future, and we tailor their support to them. Now, when you've got 350 franchisees, tailoring support is a challenge. So there are frameworks that we're doing that within, but it seems to be working incredibly well. And then with Drama Kids, it's about getting that brand out there and everyone knowing who we are now. We've got some very, very large territories. I think every new franchisor does that in the early days. Maybe their territories are a tad bigger than they perhaps would have later down the line. And we've been really building a recruitment process for that, because there was no recruitment process at all for Drama Kids. They were very much looking after the franchisees they had, and building the international branding, rather than recruiting new franchisees in the UK. So it's been a recruitment drive. So I spent a lot of time with the recruitment and the support teams. And then also getting to grips with the new franchise agreement. I mean, it takes a good few reads through of a franchise agreement before they kind of are similar, especially when you've been lucky enough to, the last few have been done by the same company. So I know the language now, and also making sure the rest of the team understand the franchise agreement.
Yeah. Well, and Lisa, that's one thing I wanted to ask you, because obviously with Stagecoach, a big network, a big franchise network with each franchisee, the bigger they are, the more kind of staff they have, whether it's part-time, full-time employment, or all of that kind of stuff. So there's layers to these businesses from franchisor to franchisee and below. What communication structure have you set up? Like how is communication run between all of those layers? So if the franchisor wants to update 350 franchisees on a new page in the franchise agreement or the operations manual, or there is a change of system, because you've identified something which actually would work better. How do you go about communicating that? How does that work? Tell me about that, especially with Stagecoach, because obviously Stagecoach is massive, and then you can take those learnings into Drama Kids. But yeah, 100%. How does that work? How does it work?
So we have a single point of communication that we agreed with the franchisees. We put it in place, and then we said, well, we'll test it and see what happens, and then you can feed back to us. So we have a bulletin. It goes out every Wednesday by 12:30 every single week. If it's not going to go, we actually send a bulletin saying there's no content this week. So there's always something that goes. And within that, we prioritize. So we have a traffic light system. So the essential, you have to read this to make your business function, is always in red. then these are really good things to know if you're growing and developing and want to be engaged. And then the green is, these are really nice stories to read and they're great articles about great news that's happening in the network. But do you know what? If you miss it, your business isn't going to suffer.
Yeah.
And we've traffic light. Yeah. So we've got this traffic light system within the bulletin. It goes every Wednesday.
That's email, is it? An
Sorry?
email?
That's
Is that
email.
an email to every?
Yeah, that's an
all the
email.
franchises? Yeah.
And what we do is we send that via MailChimp so that we know what the open rate is, we know what the read-through rate is, we know what the click-through rate is. And if we see things that haven't been getting good click-through, we will highlight them again in the following bulletin. Say, look, this was missed last week. We can see that only 36 people out through. I mean, that would be appalling. I'd be really upset if it was 36, but only 200 people out 360 opened. We're concerned that you've missed this bit. The exception to that is if there is a fundamental change to the business model, operations manual, franchise agreement. So it's legal.
Yeah.
And there is going to be a potential risk to them breaking the law or doing something dangerous, maybe for safeguarding. We will send a direct communication from the directors.
Right.
So everyone gets something that comes in that's either from the CEO or the COO, and they go, that's serious, because if they're emailing, this is something we've really got to pay attention to. Yeah. And that is normally around if there was a safeguarding incident or something that we needed to make them aware of. I mean, that horrible incident that was up in Southport, and we just went, we need to give support to you guys and make sure that your parents are feeling supported in their workshops. And so that went out from our CEO within a few hours of us finding out. So it's those kind of communication, and that is a settled communication. We don't deviate from that. It's tempting to sometimes, especially I think marketing sometimes, like, oh, we can send this email. I'm like, it goes in the bulletin, because that's our single point of truth. We also have we will always update the operations manual in this month at this time. The new one is released. We highlight on the first few pages where the changes are. So actually they don't need to read the whole manual to find out where the changes are.
And where does that, so operations manual is always can be a really unwieldy thing, right? Because it's big, it's always growing, it has little changes.
I can remember somebody telling me once they used the lever arch folder that we gave them with the ops manual in as a doorstop. I was like, oh, I'm glad it's functional.
So what do you do now with operations manuals? I mean, do they all still have that physical copy, but then
we have us online.
It's all online.
We have us online. Yeah. And also it makes it so that we've got a really good search function. We had a system built called Backstage. A lot of our systems have names that link to something to do with theatre, unsurprisingly. But we have Backstage, which is in the background. These are all the things that you need to know to make your business work. And it just means that any document, they can search for the content rather than having to leaf through the whole document to get to what they need. And then obviously my support team know where to find it as well if they get stuck.
Excellent. Okay, good. No, that's good. So Lisa, in the last few minutes, what I want to, I suppose what I want to dig into a little bit is just the overall support side of a large franchise network, and how you see the best way of doing that, because there's so many different facets to it. When you've got so many franchisees, you're always going to have ones that are, we could say, more ambitious, right? To be kind, to say, these are more ambitious, these people are less ambitious. You got people in the middle. You got people that could be more ambitious, but maybe need a bit of coaching or a bit of mentoring to take a risk, to take the next step, and so on and so, or spend a bit more money on marketing and so on. What's the structure with Stagecoach? How does that look? You talk about you talk about these consultants, like business consultants. So they obviously play a part at a business development level. But when it comes to marketing, when it comes to the sales side or the marketing side of the business, and just doing the right things, what is the support size that you have now in terms of staff and people?
Yes, I think the biggest difference between having this massive 300 odd franchisees and 30 is that when I started out with all franchise support, it was very much regional. So this person was responsible for this region, this person was responsible for this region. You almost have regional account managers, and that works really well when you've got less franchisees, and you don't have such a breadth of Are they the steady eddies that I like to call them? Are they the real ones who's rising stars and they're really pushing and driving for more? Are they maybe started going to slight decline because they're at the point where they maybe need to be selling? They all need very different support, and actually that's very different skill sets. Having somebody, do you give them a kick up the butt or a cuddle? And it's a really delicate balance, because sometimes they do need a cuddle. Life gets in the way and it's hard, and sometimes they're just being a bit lazy and they need to kick up the butt. I think we've all been in that position, where someone's had to give us a short, sharp, come on, get your stuff together and sort yourself out. And it's a very different skill set. And one of the big things that we spend a lot of time in head office doing is training our teams. We have training programs that run for our internal teams constantly. There isn't ever a point where somebody isn't on some sort of training program, because we want to be able to make sure that we're filling them up so that they can deliver out. And we do that we have a full marketing team. So some of the team marketing is done internally. Some of it we give them suppliers and we link them up with recommended suppliers, but we always do ongoing training. So every couple of months, we run a thing called a business accelerator course. That's all about helping our franchisees market. And so people can dial into it or not, as the case may be. Our consultants they do work with the region. So they have their person. So everyone's got a point of contact, but they all have specialisms. So we have someone within our business consultant team who's really, really good with finances, like gets numbers inside out, upside down, banking background. Then we've got someone who really loves marketing and getting out there, and he calls them guerrilla tactics of how you really get under the skin of marketing and really make a difference. Then we have people who have sold businesses, have run franchises themselves in the past, and know how to get bums on seats. So they all have their own specialist skill set. And so even though they've got their point of contact, if business consultant goes out and says, do you know what, I'm really struggling with my numbers, do you know what, we'll put you in touch with this person, because that's their real excellence. I'm still here to support you, I'm alongside you, but that's their excellence. And they'll signpost them to the person who's got the technical expertise. We've got a full events team, so a lot of what our franchisees do is events. They put on theatre shows, they take the kids to Disney, and do massive performances and workshops and things like that. So we have an entire events team that takes out the pain of doing that and the administration behind that. So I think that's the difference, is we've got clear teams. We've got a support team, we've got a compliance team, we've got an out and about business consultant team, we've got our recruitment team, we've got our marketing team, and then we've got our events team. And what we then do internally is we bring one person from each of those departments together for an operational management team, and they can discuss all together all the feedback that we've been getting from our franchisees that says, this is where more support is needed, this is where we need more, this is where we need less, this is where the communication's great, this is where the communication isn't so great. And then we also have a franchise advisory council where 10 people are nominated onto that every year. Some of them carry over. We keep 40% the same so that you get some continuity. But there's always a refresh. And so we get the voices of the franchisees directly through those people to help the communication and ensure that our support is what they need. And one of the bigger things that we need at the moment is we're developing a whole new program called Act 2, theatre reference again. And that is about support that you need beyond how to run your model. So this is how you run the model. This is how you do the franchise. But if you're now doing multiple teams and multiple territories, you probably need some leadership skills. And you probably need to know how to run teams remotely, because that's a skill in itself. And so we're running development training programs through that as well now. Most of those are online, so they're accessible.
And that's a really interesting thing to talk about, is those franchisees, part of a larger organization, who have almost, and if you let it happen, they might even get that mindset that they've outgrown the franchisor. And
that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah, exactly. So and that's something that we're paying more attention to, just because we've come across it so often now. How are you doing that? Because I agree, it's kind of bringing them in at that leadership level. It's making them feel that actually they're contributing to the growth at a high level, a strategic level to the business. They're maybe being involved in more high level discussions and things than other franchisees might, because they've kind of earned it and they've proved it and they've walked the walk, talked the talk, and everything else. How do you do that at Stagecoach? Because that's something I think a lot of franchisors at that level are starting to struggle with.
Yeah, so I think that this is something that we are working on massively. So the Act 2 program is part of that. So we're working with some franchisees who are ex-franchisees. They've decided that they've come to the point where, hey, I've been running this for 25 years, 30 years. I'm ready to realize that asset, to bring that money out and to take a little bit of time off. But what tends to happen is either they come back and say, can we buy a franchise back again, please? We miss it too much. And that does happen quite a bit. Or they've come to us and said, you know what, we've got this work to give back. And so we're starting to work with some of those guys who've been with us 15, 20, 25 years. Not yet working with those franchisees who are still with us, but those ones who've exited. So there's no conflict of interest, because that's what we wouldn't want anyone to think, is that, oh, so because they've got a bigger business, you're listening to them more than you're listening to us.
Yeah.
We don't have favorites. That's not how this works. But one of the really effective things that I've seen in the past is when I was working for Platinum, we introduced an alumni program. So there was a point when it's a different franchise model. So I don't know that it would work for everybody, but certainly within Platinum, they didn't have territories. You did get to a point where you'd bought the amount of houses you wanted, your income was passive, you had somebody else maybe managing your properties. And then there wasn't an immediate need for, what does head office give me? What support do I get? But they still wanted to be part of the community. They still want to be part of the network, that mentoring, the things that we started looking at, more personal development rather than professional development. And that's the things we've started to introduce here at Stagecoach as well. And whether that develops into an alumni program where they pay a much smaller percentage or a flat rate across a certain amount of months, they still are involved in the business, but they don't necessarily run it directly day to day. Whether we do develop into that, I'm not sure, but we're certainly looking at more professional development. So we've been starting to look at how to balance your mental health and ensure you get that work-life balance or choice, or however you want to phrase it, but that you do get the freedom that you decided to start a business for, the purpose of that. What was your end goal? How do we get you there? How do we get you so that you can spend more time on a beach, if that's what your goal is, or up a mountain, or whatever your aims and your goals might be? And what's that personal development as well, not necessarily just how do you build your business. And I think that's where we got it really right with Platinum. It was about not just your professional development and your business development, but your personal development too. And that's why they wanted to stay on as alumni. They would pay to be part of the group, even if they didn't need any of the technical expertise anymore, because they've been doing it for 15 years and they've got it. So I think that's one of the things that, yeah, PPP did really well. And I think that we're starting to get to that point because of the size of the network. You have to.
Yeah, no, I think that's that's an area we might, we're nearly out of time, Lisa. We might have to have an act 2 on this podcast.
I love that.
With you. So maybe dig into a few other areas, because there's obviously a lot that we can talk about. So, but for now, Lisa, I'd just like to say thanks so much for just giving us a bit of an insight into what you get up to, and the brands that you're involved with. I know Stagecoach really well, and I'm going to keep a close. I knew Helen O'Grady, so I didn't realize the change to Drama Kids. So now I've got the link, so I'm going to keep an eye on that from now on. And I'm sure, as I said, to most people I talk on here involved in franchising, we'll probably we'll bump into each other here or there at a franchise event in the future. So but for now, it's been great. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers, bye.